I think I heard you in passing mention that words like please and thank you are causing problems. What do you mean by that?
Yep. So like the AI processing those words. Okay, what do I do with this? Right. So if you give a summary, the AI needs to process those words. Like when there are like redundant tokens where it
Oh,
doesn't actually add. These are like fillers, more of like respect for people, etc. But for the
uh-huh.
AI, it does not mean anything. If you ask something, it needs to do something about it, right? So like those things are those pillars are things that AI would like, okay, what do I do with this now? Training the AI to like handle those is the critical part. So like when you remove, like when you're like to the point, tell what the AI should do, it does a good job. But when you add the other things, right, that's when it needs more processing power. It burns more tokens and more memory, more capacity to like infer. Like 70 to 80% of like the costs are inferencing. That means it's thinking. When you give it a question, as big as it becomes, then it needs to process that and like give you an answer. So some of
Interesting.
these like filler words increase the time it takes to think and process your question.
Wow. But it doesn't necessarily affect the end answer, right?
Yeah, it just means, you can actually, without those words, it would think faster, burn less energy, less power, less tokens, and give you a response faster, right? At a lower cost
Mm.
for the company.
Interesting. That's really hilarious. I wonder then when prompting with emojis will become sort of the default. The text stuff went from back in the day we had formal writing and then we had to shorten it in texts and then now it's moving to emojis and little like TTYLs and things like that. Can AI handle that kind of stuff? It's definitely compressed.
Yeah, I think those are like all interesting things. The I basically, I think you were also asking about the doom. So one thing that differentiates, I'll connect these two questions together. AI learns and gives you responses from only what it has seen. That's why, like, all of these LLM companies have like exhausted the resources available because okay, they've trained on all the books, all the papers that has written, like everything out in the world wide web. So now they're like out of information.
Yeah,
So it is trained on what it has seen. That's where like the human creativity comes into picture where we
there
can
you
like
go.
be creative about the future, right? That power, it synthesizes based on what it has seen, right? So there are limitations to what it has seen, not seen, and what it can go, right? Because you're gonna train on it. So that's where like they've gone into like creating synthetic data. That means they are like making AI create data about hypothetical scenarios because they have like exhausted the amount of data available out there to train and make these models do things. So now going back to your question about like the smileys, emojis, all these like short forms, right? If you have like data repositories to train it, then yes, it can respond to
Mm,
all those questions of the Gen Z. If they don't train it, then no, it cannot do it. It's more about like, has it seen all of those examples, right? You have to like curate all of them and like train it. So, yeah,
I
that could
see.
be